When planning your Embark team, while you can adjust the amount of points you have to buy items, you're limited the number of skills you can give your dwarves. Most players will begin by certainly making a few miners, being as miners are critical to the success of your fort. But mining is also a skill they gain very rapidly, and you're limited to giving them 5 points in mining up front. As you only have 7 dwarves, sometimes you may want to consider instead embarking on skills that are harder to train, especially some of the non-combat, non-craftsman dwarf skills like appraising or negotiating, the social skills that can help your administrative dwarves later on. So what I want to run a study today is we're going to compare setting up 2 miners with 2 picks versus 3 miners with 3 picks and no skills. So we'll run the experiment and carve out the same size fort twice, and using the calendar, see who goes faster. For our first experiment, we have 2 trained miners and 2 pickaxes. The rest of the peasants will sit around while we conduct our experiment. I've carved out a 3x1 stair to be fair to the later experiment, gone down 10 Z levels, and then carved out 8 10x10 rooms. This would be big enough for most starting forts to begin carving out a safe space for you. So I think this is a good comparison. We're beginning this test on the 15th of granite, so let's see how long it takes for them once I unpause. And there we go. We'll jump up. You can see they're already digging down. Let them get to the bottom here. Alright, they've entered the hallway. Let's do a quick time skip here and see how long it takes. At the turn of the first month, you can see our 2 skilled miners have each cleared out. We have 1 room cleared out, another room mostly cleared out, and the first hallway to the second set of rooms. So again, we'll pause here and do a quick time jump. As we approach the first month, or on the 12th of the second month would be in this fort here, you can see we've cleared out 2 full rooms. Two full rooms. Most of the top room. Dwarf down here is a little bit slower, and obviously you're going to have differences between your dwarves. They've both upgraded. They're now talented miners. They've also both taken 1 break for a drink. We are now 1 month in, and we have, I would say, 3 rooms carved out along with the hallway, and they'll continue their work as we go. Coming into the 1.5 month mark, let's see our dwarves here. We now have an adept miner here, an adept miner here. You'll notice happiness is way up for these dwarves because they just love working. And we have carved out, I'd say, 5.5 rooms, maybe just 5 rooms. And they're off to take another break. I don't know if this is a drink or sleeping, but we'll find out. I'm going to continue on with this test. And here we are at the 2-month mark. We have all of these first 6 rooms carved out except for this corner here. About halfway through this room and half of this room done. So that's 2 months of carving. And if we look at our dwarves, we're now an expert miner over here and an expert miner here. So they're going a little faster. They each took a nap. They've each taken 2 breaks for drinks. So we'll just keep recording until we get to the end. Alright, and we just finished up. I paused it. It's the 25th of the late spring, which means the time to beat is 2 months and 10 days. Looking at our 2 dwarves, they've leveled up. We have a professional miner here and a professional miner here. So time to beat, 2 months, 10 days. Now let's see how the amateurs do. For our next test, we've embarked again. We've only brought peasants with us, and I've labeled 3 of them to do mining and nothing else, and once again drawn out the same 3x1 stairs down, 10 Z levels, and 8 10x10 rooms. So we'll let them get to that and see how they do. As we hit the end of the first month, we can see these miners haven't quite carved out as much as our last test group, though they're close, and they are improving rapidly as they continue to dig, but they are behind the first group. We've carved out one full room up here, about half the room down here, and we've gotten a hallway done to the next set of rooms, where these two miners looks like they'll split up. From a skills standpoint, we're up to a novice, up from dabbling at first, novice there, and a novice here. So we'll do another time jump and see where they are at the mid-month. We've now been digging for 1 month, and while they're not where the other miners were, they're rapidly catching up. I wouldn't say they're half done, but they're pretty close. So it might be a run to the end here, maybe having that third miner, even though they started with no skill at all, seems to be catching up. We'll see where we are. Just about to switch over into late spring, and we are making a good run here at it. As you can see, we've got 5 rooms finished off. We've just started in on the last 3 rooms. I guess they're off to get a drink there. We've got 25 days left to go. If they can complete this before then the amateurs actually beat the pros. So we'll do one more time jump and see where we get. Just hitting the 2-month mark here, and it's coming down to the wire, but it looks like the amateurs might beat the pros. We'll see where this goes, but they've got 10 days to finish off this room. Everyone here is now a skilled miner, so they're moving along at a pretty good clip, and obviously there's 3 of them now. We've trained up 3 skilled miners. If they get done before the 25th, then what that says to me is that if you're going to use your miners consistently for the first season, there's not a whole lot of value in spending your skill points on the mining skill. I could have brought these guys as my doctors, or as some craft dwarves, or as my glass-making dwarves, skills that I can't necessarily use early on in the game, but that I desperately want later on and may not want to spend the time training. And there we go. 19th of late spring. They finished 6 days earlier, the same size fort, having 3 dwarves who could have had skills needed for mid-game or late game, carved out the same thing as 2 dedicated miners. So what's our takeaway here? You have a limited number of skill points to dedicate to your first 7 dwarves. And you need to think about what you plan on doing with your fort within that first half year. If you plan on setting up an industry like glassmaking, or clay, or even a gem, or maybe a bone carver, it may be worth giving them the skills there where quality really matters, handing them a pick even though they're unskilled, and letting them learn during the first 2 months of the game. They will rapidly gain skill. In the past, I've always embarked with 2 to maybe even 3 miners because I want to dig out a lot of my fort fast. What I've learned from this is that the amateurs, if there's enough of them, can easily catch up to the pros, and the skills that are harder to train may be better to spend your points on. So your mileage may vary, and every dwarf works at different paces, but this shows it's at least worth considering how you spend those points. Anyway, hope you have a great day. Please subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you want more of these. Thanks.